believe it or not, we still do have a little bit more for you because it's the off season. We're going to do one more fanspo. Well, not one more in general, but for today's episode, we're going to do one more topic. We're going to do an NBA mock draft here. Here we go. Where is my tool? No, I'm in post. My bad. Let me go to tools here on Fanspo. So we still got our draft up from last time, but because that was so unrealistic, we wanted to do one soon enough in this episode. And also, Ethan, it is Con Knipple. I
was right.
No, yeah, you were 100% right, and I knew I was wrong, but for whatever reason, I wanted to say Noople, but it
looks
is
like
Knipple.
Noople. It looks like Noople.
It does look like Noople, but it is Con Knipple. So I apologize for that. We'll get that right this time. And this time, Ethan, we're going to go back to the Fanspo consensus. Shout out to No Ceilings, but we want this to be a little bit more realistic this time.
Cooper, there we go.
Ace, Dylan Harper. As much as it may not be in that order, this is actually pretty on par so far. Ooh. Oh, dang. I thought Trey was going to follow us for a second. Okay. So here we go, Ethan. We got Derik Queen. We got Con Knipple again. Asa Newell also on the board here for the Spurs. What are you feeling?
I still think we go Con Knipple, dude, personally.
Okay. Let me look down here. Yeah. So here's what I'll say. The only three guys out of these that I'm personally considering are Derik Queen, Con, and Asa.
Let's shake it up, though. Why don't we shake it up?
You want to shake it up just since we've been doing, because we've done Con the last two drafts, because even that last one, we got him at 15. Okay, so let's shake it up. So that kind of brings the conversation to Derik Queen and Asa Newell, Ethan. What are your thoughts on those two guys?
I think in this instance, I think you're higher on Asa Newell than I am. I still really like him as a prospect, but I think Derik Queen at center is the immediate need and probably slightly more immediate impact than Asa going into next year.
You know, I will agree with that. I think offensively too, Derik can come in and have more of an impact than Asa. And I think defensively, as much as Asa might have some length and mobility things, Derik, as much as he's almost 250, he can move on the perimeter pretty well. So he's got some switchability there. He can still rebound. As much as there were, like we've harped on that game against Danny Wolf. That was a tough game for him. Here, let me pull up his ESPN page in the background here. Let me see how many blocks that Derik Queen averaged this season, Ethan. But I'm with you. Let's go with that. But before we pick him here, I'm just going to look up his stats on the other side. So he averaged a block and a steal a game. So 2 stocks on top of 9 boards. So did have a defensive impact for Maryland this season.
There we go. Backup center addressed.
There we go. Is Con going to fall to us again?
No, he's not. He's not. Dallas loves their white shooters.
This is, I feel like this is a lot more
Danny
realistic.
Wolf went 14.
So I think he actually might be jumping up boards a little bit. Let me see where the rankings are.
People have been watching our podcast. They know, hey, Ethan from SSPN's high on him.
Like, you see how there's this gap between 19 and 21? I think he was at 20. I think he has been moving up a little bit. But we do have the backup center addressed, Ethan. We've got a couple different options here. What are we thinking?
I know where your head's at, Jude.
Really?
I think I do.
Okay.
I kind of like Liam McNeely here, personally. And then second on my list would be Jace Richardson.
Okay.
Liam addresses the at least the shooting aspect at that wing position, right?
Let me pull this up for you. So I know I've pulled this up a lot of episodes, but if you have Liam McNeely, you can play him at the 2 or the 3. And if you want to start him at the 3, you can move Harrison Barnes to the backup 4, or you can move Devin Vassell to the starting 3 and start bring Liam McNeely as the 2 off the bench. But this just kind of gives a little bit of rotation stuff.
Igor Demin is also a good one. I'm nervous about that one, Jude, because I don't know if drafting a non-shooting guard at this point in our rebuild would be impactful next year. Maybe in a couple years, that's like a bad pick for us. We should have taken him because he's an all-star already. But immediately it gives me some worry.
The last time that we talked about Igor Demon, your perspective on him definitely kind of made me reevaluate how I viewed him. I still think I still see why he has such a high potential, but
Right.
he definitely is kind of a project where you've got to kind of mine away, if you will, kind of keep chipping away, and then a couple years down the line, it'll really all come together. For him as a player, kind of in that like Giannis-esque mold. Again, not saying he's going to be Giannis, but it'll take a little bit for him to really be complete as a player. So for me here, and I think you actually were right. I thought you were going to say that I was going with Igor, but I think Jace Richardson,
Hmm.
that's the one that stands out to me the most here. I definitely there's a little bit of me that wants to go Nolan
I
Trayor,
was gonna
just
say that as well.
just because of the French connection, and they're ranked right next to each other. Um, but just what Jace Richardson did in the Big Ten at Michigan State, like that's
Right.
just, as much as there's a ton of good guys coming from France right now, I just feel like Jace Richardson is a little bit more of a sure thing. But if we want to switch it up because we've drafted Jace Richardson and other mocks, I'm totally down to go with Nolan Trayor. Like it's like it's a very minuscule difference for me between those two guys. They're ranked basically the same.
I think we go Jace. I think
Okay,
just
I'm
it
with you.
it solves the bench scoring ball dominant guy. Like this immediately is an improvement.
So with that, well, here let's wait until the end. We'll finish the draft and then I'll pull up the rotations again. So that's the second time that we've picked Jace Richardson at that 15-16 spot. So maybe that's something to watch this summer. Obviously, there's a ton of stuff that could happen in between then that could affect that, but that is a trend kind of that I've noticed here, Ethan. I didn't think he was going to be there the first time that happened, but now as we've kind of gone on in the draft process, I do think that would be a realistic pick. So you got somebody for Blake to compete with in the backup point guard position, and then we've got Derik Queen as the backup center. So that really kind of leaves that backup four position as the main opening here with this last pick,
Hmm. Which pick do we have? I forget. 30,
39.
39. Okay. All right. We're watching. We're watching.
I definitely think that the the fanspo consensus is a
Oh, dang
is a
it.
is a better big board.
I keep hoping that one of these days JT Toppin drops to us at our pick.
Uh
I
huh.
really do like JT Toppin. Hmm.
Yeah, Yaxel Lindeborg, just to say he's going to be playing at Michigan next year. I've been watching more of him. I definitely think, I see why a lot of people were saying that they would like him as the backup center. As much as he's only 6'9", Ethan, just he's a double double, rebounding, machine. Jared Vanderbilt kind of type build, but probably can't, plays a little bit more around the rim. So I see why people were very high on him in the second round, but obviously one, the backup center position's already been addressed, and two, he's going to be playing at Michigan next year. But I
Hmm.
see Walter Clayton is here. The only thing is we just drafted Jace Richardson.
I think Dink Pate's a pretty solid pick here. I also like Isaiah Evans too. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Dink Pate, I think, could be our project guy in kind of a similar fashion that Igor Demon would be, or Demon. Um,
Mm-hmm.
real versatile
I
18-year
agree.
old, high upside defensively, athletic, and can take him a couple years, but I mean he'll be a second round pick anyway. So we have that investment time.
And here's the other thing that I forget about. There's only so many roster spots, so there's a big chance that this last second round pick could be a two-way guy as well.
Right,
And that's kind of what Dink Pate's been doing. He played with G League Ignite and then he played with Mexico City this season. So that would be an easy transition, going from Mexico City to Austin and
right.
kind of spending a year in the G League, like you said, to maybe develop into something long term. But I'm with you there here because they're listing him as a forward, and I think that kind of is how his game is molded. But like you said, when he first came into G League Ignite, he was supposed to kind of be one of those, 6'8" point guards, the positionless,
Mhm.
type of, high end prospect that he was projected to be in this draft that he didn't end up being, that we've talked about in other episodes. Not to repeat myself too much. But for those of you guys who don't know, y'all can go look that up about Dink Pate. But I think he's got the highest value with him once upon a time being a super high prospect whenever it comes to rankings. And also, he's got positional versatility as well.
Right on.
So let's roll with that. He definitely would probably spend the year in Austin. But with all that being said, Ethan, That would kind of make this bottom row here. And if you're listening on podcast, we apologize, but we've got our graphic up of our roster outlook for next season. You'd have Jace Richardson in that point guard position. You'd have Derik Queen in the backup center position. And then again, I can't believe I'm forgetting this. And then we'd have Dink Pate somewhere in one of these forward positions. Maybe you could move up Keldon and move Harrison to the 4, and then you can have Dink as the backup 3. But also, if Malachi Branham gets moved, he could kind of be in that third string 2 position. Regardless, he's going to be in one of those third string positions if he's not in a two-way spot. But that's kind of where he would fit in potentially there.
I think that's a nice draft, Jude. I think we have some immediate impact guys, and we fill a couple of needs, and then we still maintain our project player for you to be obsessed with in Austin.
There we go, completely. And one I can actually be invested in,
Exactly.
unlike last season. But here's what I'll say about this one. Definitely a lot more realistic in this one. And I think like this genuinely could be, something that happens for the Spurs.
Right on. I agree.